Or live on YouTube.
Do you not have it? You don't carry your cell phone normally?
No.
That is admirable.
Yeah, I didn't bring it with me here. I figured no one would get in touch with me. So, yeah, I mean, I've got it in the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
It's a track phone. I only bought a 1-year track phone this year just because of the move. And then previous years, I haven't had anything.
Really?
You haven't even had a cell phone?
No, not at all. And as
No
soon
kidding.
as the 1 year is up, I'm getting rid of it. I hate it.
Live on YouTube. Facebook, sorry.
That is
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, it's... I mean, I
we on
have a
YouTube?
home phone and email and covers all my bases
Without distraction.
without distraction.
Have you ever had an iPhone or anything? Or
No.
a smartphone?
What
Not
channel is it
besides
on YouTube?
temporary
You
track
see it
phones.
actually
When my son
working?
was born, we used an old track phone, and I just gave it another month.
Uh-huh.
So, whenever she went into labor, I could respond quickly.
Right. That whole...
She does like that.
Right.
Yeah. And when I was in Europe a month, and I had a cell phone then. It was a Hungarian...
The privacy says unlisted.
Yeah,
Should that
that's...
be changed?
Yes.
Should it be changed?
Yes.
Yeah, because I can't pull it up.
Yeah, it's basically no one can see it. You gotta go public
Public.
and hit save.
Do I have to restart it?
I don't know.
No.
Let's see. Nope. There it is.
Boom.
Good catch, Dave.
Was that us?
Did that change?
Are we live? People see
Yep.
us
People see us.
People see us at this
Hear us.
point.
talking.
Yes.
Was it?
That is awesome, though. I was curious, though, if you ever had one, so that way you could reflect
Compare,
on, like,
yeah. No, I mean, I had I got an apartment as a junior, as a senior in college, so that would have been like, what, I don't know, 2004. So I got a cell phone. It was a flip phone for like, I don't know, a month. Hated it, returned it. It was still within some return period. And then I'm like, nah.
Do your friends ever give you a hard time? Like,
What are friends?
yeah. That's what I would think. Like,
I'm sorry.
My books are my
What?
friends.
Yeah.
I could see.
All my friends don't speak anymore because they're dead.
Yeah. I could see like me being fine without a phone, but then your friends are trying to like text you,
Yeah.
like, hey, what? And they just can't. Got to send you an email, and maybe you'll get it. So I guess they just call you.
Yeah, call me on the home phone or office phone. People get in touch with me.
Yeah.
Somehow I've managed.
I mean, it worked before the cell
It
phone
did.
was invented.
People had more patience then too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, but also
Yeah.
everybody else wasn't used to the instant, right? So
Yeah,
like a lot
exactly.
of times when I'm getting a hold of him, it's not because I actually need to know the answer. It's like, no, other people need to know the answer from me, and I got to know it for him.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't respond, then he responds later, and then I have to make sure that I'm carved out that time
Yeah.
to reply to the other people. So
right.
it's those people that need
Okay, here we go.
to know that answer quickly.
Yeah. that
Everybody.
makes
I mean,
sense.
Tell them to chill out.
everybody just be quiet.
Here's to good friends.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's sort of an oaky afterbirth.
What was that?
She did tell me to get a beer and some cheese fries over at Eskimo Joe's.
That's very nice, lovely. I only hope you feel this way when I'm done. Because I could destroy this night in 2 seconds.
Why is that funny?
Well, I think it's a bit funny to be trying to define nothing.
Smooth as a bourbon on a summer day. Strong as a peated scotch in the winter night. This is a fair warning. The Catholic Man Show is about to begin.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. Adam Minahan here, sitting with David Niles in studio. Juan is back. It's great to have Juan back in studio. He is back into the States, made it back safely. We asked you guys to pray for him and his wife and family. We appreciate that. Prayers were answered. All is well. Family's doing well, Juan, yes?
Muchas gracias. Sí,
Yeah.
sí, sí.
De nada, mucho gusto. We also have a.
It's de nada mucho.
Me gusto.
Me gusto.
Me gusto.
Yeah. That's
Thank
better.
you for the correction.
It's okay. It's just in charity.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
I just don't want you to look like an idiot.
We have a guest, Dr. Brian Besong, with us today. Brian, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
You were on a recent episode with Pat Flynn, who was on our show not too long ago, talking with Jimmy Aiken, staff apologist at Catholic Answers, on this topic of lying.
Yeah, right.
And so I really enjoyed the conversation. I've actually listened to a couple of your debates. I think they're all very well done. Your demeanor in debates are very good. Like I wish that I could hold that kind of demeanor in debates, because I feel like if I was in there, you pinpoint them, you get them back into a corner, and then they realize I have nowhere else to go, and then you back off, and then you just let it happen. Like let the audience connect the dots.
Yeah.
Instead of like driving the point home. That's the fun part for me, you know. Like
they're ready for the kill,
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah.
Especially if you're debating an ideological enemy.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
if it's like pro-choice versus pro-life, you know, you definitely want to you want to see him destroy the guy. You know, it's like we're in the Roman Colosseum all of a sudden. You know,
thumbs down.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why those videos of Ben Shapiro destroys.
Yeah. Facts
fill
and
in
logic.
the blank. Yeah, that's why they get so many views, because there's something in us that wants to see the blood, you know, even if it's intellectual.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. So you did great. So maybe a little bit of background on who you are, where you were at.
Yeah. So I studied philosophy. I got my PhD at Purdue in 2013. And my research right now and for most of my career has been on moral knowledge and natural law moral thinking. So lying is just a straightforward application of natural law. It's a very easy topic on natural law. What gets complicated is that people don't like what natural law has to say. So
yes,
that's where the debates come in.
Well, and I mean, I think it's easy until you get human nature comes into play, right? Because there's so many different situations that come. Like it's easy to say, yes, here's the principle, apply the principle, but then you put human beings with different variables, and that makes it at least emotionally tougher to make those decisions.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
I mean, anytime that you're doing something or discussing an ideology that's going to hold people to account and call them to harness their own desires,
right?
People aren't going to like it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about natural law is there are moral absolutes, and at least some of them are pretty clear. And so the rigor or the bright lines are pretty bright and pretty easy to see. And in many ways, that's an advantage of the theory. We don't want a moral theory that lets us rationalize bad behavior.
Right.
But at the same time, it's, sometimes we do kind of want at some other level a moral theory that lets us rationalize bad behavior. And so
it depends on if I want to do the bad behavior.
right. Yeah, if it's another person who's doing the bad behavior, we want
no,
nice
sir.
bright lines. Yeah.
You bad person.
Kill.
Right. Yeah.
Can I have another bump of cocaine, please?
Wow. So last night you gave a talk here at Holy Family Cathedral on this very topic, and last night afterwards, a couple of us went out and had a couple of drinks to talk further about it. Dr. Malash, Dr. Henderson, Eli, and Deacon Garlic, and us three were there. We were talking, and I came up with a scenario, right? So recently, we had new people move into.
This wasn't a scenario. This is a story.
Is it? Yeah. So
Are you asserting this?
Right. Exactly. Okay. So recently, I had some neighbors move in. They had little kids, which is perfect because as a dad, you realize giving your kids good friends is such a blessing, right?
Yeah.
So I was really excited to have them there. They were Catholic, so it's like, boom, this is great. This is great news, right?
Yeah.
So they're out playing. Luke comes in, my oldest comes in after playing one day and says, "Dad, where did I come from? Where am I from?" And initially I was like, go talk to your mom. But no, that's not what I said. I decided, like, this is the opportunity. I've read John Paul II. We've gone through the theology of the body.
Been waiting for this moment.
I've been waiting for this moment. Like, let's roll up the sleeves. Like, let's sit down. Let's get serious. Let's talk about this. So I sat Luke down. I poured him a pop, and which is a big treat. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. So I'm sitting there talking about it, and I'm telling him, when a man loves a woman, you give yourself completely over to them. The man and wife become one, and their love is manifested. And I'm starting to go through the theology of the body, and as I'm talking to him, I just see his eyes get bigger and bigger and bigger, and like this kind of like worried blank stare comes on his face. And like, I'm thinking like, well, maybe am I laying it on too thick? Am I missing the mark here? And, so I finish up and I say, I ask him, I said, well, Luke, do you have any questions? And he stopped and kind of scratched his head and said, well, Dad, Johnny's from Cincinnati. And so I realized that's not the question that he was asking. Okay, so I told that story. I've told that story several times. This is actually a long story that has been going through the Niles family and my family. First time I heard it was Dave's dad.
It's obviously a joke.
It's obviously a joke. I've heard it from Dave's dad 20 times throughout the years. And I started that joke off as the MC of the Oklahoma Men's Conference, right? I was pitching this idea, when you tell a story, when you tell a joke, it's always good to tell it a couple times before you tell it on the main stage. So I was doing that at the Chancery.
Okay.
I told this joke, they all laughed, and then last night we were talking about this whole topic, and I used this as an example, as a joke. Like, okay, my intent was to make you believe this story was true
for a while,
and then.
Yeah, for a short time.
For a while. And as I said that, Deacon Garlick and I think Dr. Henderson said, wait, that wasn't a true story? And I said, no.
You were kidding?
Yeah. And I said, no, that was, I started off with, this is a joke that I'm going to tell.
Yeah.
And so then I felt terrible because I realized that they thought I did not make it clear that this was a joke.
I think the word
clearly.
Betrayal was used several times.
Yeah. In fact, Deacon Harrison said you were going to be down in the last circle of hell with in the frozen tundra.
With Judas.
Yeah, exactly. Where the betrayers are.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, that was a moment where I realized, okay, what is this?
Yeah. Right.
What just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a lie?
Well, so I guess I don't know enough about the context to know. When we were debating whether or not you lied, at one point it was said you said this is the joke I'm going to start the men's conference with, and then everyone protested. Well, sometimes jokes can be real. Sometimes jokes can be just anecdotes.
Right.
And you're like, no. So I guess it was ambiguous whether it was a lie. I think that the theory of lying, to get into the sort of broader natural law view, is so natural law says that we're all naturally seeking happiness, and that happiness consists in the satisfaction of our natural appetites. So what morality involves is properly seeking happiness, satisfying our natural appetites, using our natural powers towards their natural ends. Every power has a sort of built-in structure whereby it can achieve the end it's aimed at. And so, there's lots of different examples we could use. The appetite of eating is for food. The appetite of communication, natural law says, is for conveying our mind or revealing our mind. And revealing our mind is a really good thing. Now, in some sense, you revealed your mind by telling the joke, right? But then the question is, did you assert or did you reveal something that was at odds with your mind? And so there, it really depends on the conventions. The meanings of all of our words are conventional, and the meanings change over time. And I would say, in addition to the meanings of words changing over time, another convention is what it means to assert something, what it means to, convey something as though you judge it to be true. And so, a lie is always going to involve something that uses that power of communication but does it against your mind. And classically with assertion, what that would mean is you're you're saying something, you're asserting something, and it's not something that you judge to be true. So the question is, did you satisfy the conventions for assertion, or was it something ambiguous?
Right. And then obviously yes, because I was too ambiguous because they still thought that really happened.
Right. It was a really funny moment.
Yeah. I felt terrible, but everybody else was laughing about it.
I felt great.
Yeah. So we're here with Dr. Brian Besong. This is the Catholic Man Show. We're going to continue talking about, is lying ever morally permissible? We'll be right back.
Can you bend in his mic a little bit more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
I can do that.
And angle it up. Perfect.
Yeah.
Dr. Henderson says that you're just trying to justify your behavior.
I was justifying my behavior. Yes, this is correct. Yes.
Also, I believe the circle of the deceivers would be more fitting for this.
No, they were
punishment.
throwing down into the fraud.
He felt betrayed.
Yeah.
Ah.
Mm-hmm. You know how the priest brings in the people for dinner and then has them killed?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was lower than that.
I think Harrison said, "I've been telling people that story."
Yeah. He goes, I told my wife.
You made me lie to my wife.
So I owe Amy Garlic a apology.
Did you text her? You told
no,
him you were going to
I
text
was going
her.
to, and then I was like, you know what? It may be inappropriate for me to text Amy at this late at night. I'll wait till
After a
tomorrow.
beer.
Yeah, I'll wait until tomorrow.
Such prudence.
If only you'd exercise that prudence before.
Earlier. Yeah. It's spotty. My prudence is spotty.
Who is the third track there?
That's probably him.
No, it's nobody.
No, see the third track. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
You need to turn their mic down.
That's probably me.
Yeah. Juan, will you turn his mic down a little bit?
Check. The one that's green right now. Not too much.
Yeah, just a little bit.
There you go.
That's attention to detail right there.
Yeah.
Well, when you make mistakes enough,
Yeah.
You learn
eventually
the details.
you learn not to do them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we've learned a lot of mistakes. Well,
Really?
we've gone through a lot of mistakes.
Biggest mistake, the Catholic Man Show.
The biggest one is when
probably
we.
mine. It's
yeah.
probably my fault.
We don't ever really edit, right?
Okay.
There was one time where we had to go back and I think we pulled the whole. Did we pull the whole episode?
Yeah. No. We re-recorded.
That's right. We re-recorded a whole segment.
Wow.
Over it and said, we're having to re-record this because
we made a pretty big mistake.
We did take down the live episode.
Yes. We made a pretty big mistake. We made the mistake that...
I made the mistake
Yeah.
of... We were talking about extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. And I had been somehow led under the false...
pretenses.
I don't know. It's not like someone told me this. Somehow I just thought this was what the answer was, that the church had like a hierarchy of who can and should be extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, that it should, if that there was a preference given to men over women, that and that's just not there.
Interesting.
I even afterwards talked to other people and they're like, yeah, I've heard that. And so I have no idea where we all heard it, but so in the episode, I was saying that okay, there's this, a preference, like if there are no men, then a woman, and I kept saying, if you don't like that, don't blame me. I'm not saying it. The church is saying it.
And it turns out the church didn't say
And the church turns out no, I'm just saying that.
So we had to re-record that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
it's an innocent mistake.
Now we still have a funny
But we were
phrase.
doubling down. The problem is the doubling
you
down
take
on
it.
it,
Yeah,
over and over again.
Hard.
Yeah.
You literally got out a piece of wood. And
Right,
started
exactly,
working it.
right.
So, but, we've been doing
Eat
this
it.
for...
Yeah, exactly.
Since 2016. So
yeah. That's good. That's one episode
over 3 years.
And we've had we've had it before where we recorded a whole episode and realized
Audio
that didn't
wasn't-
record.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that attention, because it wasn't a technical problem. It was, like a doctrinal attention to church, detail. I appreciate that, you care so much to, because that's a lot of time wasted and a lot of effort made to be attentive to church details,
I also looked really bad
that day.
All right, ready?
Yeah, let's go. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But luckily, not too many people knew about it.
Yeah, that's good.
And we tried to do our best to make the change.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan, special guest Dr. Brian Besong, talking about lying.
And what level of hell I'm going to. I'm lying to Dr.
deacon.
Henderson and a deacon.
A deacon,
Yeah.
no less.
Yeah.
You lied basically to Jesus.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. You shouldn't have done that.
Mea culpa.
So, before we I want to keep asking you questions about
Yeah.
this particular story because I
Sure.
think it serves as a good story.
Yeah.
But did you finish laying out, the whole the basic premise about?
Yeah. Okay. So
let's lay that out before we keep going back
the
to
15-second version
Yeah.
is that natural law says we always have to use our powers towards their natural ends. We have to use the structure that the power has built into it, the structure that ordinarily achieves the end it's aimed at. So, Catholic listeners will be familiar with the Church's teaching on sexuality. The use of the sexual power should be aimed at procreation. In a very similar way, the use of the communicative power should be aimed at revealing our thoughts. And so that's the basic idea. Now, one of the most important things here is, and for the discussion today, is that circumstances and intention matter in natural law, but circumstances and intention can never change human nature.
Right.
And so if an act frustrates human nature, it's intrinsically wrong. It's disordered. It can never be justified by
It doesn't make it
circumstances.
grave matter per se.
No,
but
no.
it is intrinsically. It just means
Yes.
always. It's never okay.
Right, that's right. It's always I would think of most lies as being only very slight perversions of human nature, only very slight frustrations of the appetite to reveal our thoughts. So most of them are not grave in any way. At the same time, they are always wrong because they're always against human nature. And that's the essence of a natural law analysis of actions.
So our powers, our appetites, as long as, we need to keep them ordered towards their ends in order for our own flourishing.
Yes, exactly.
So I like to use the example of, if I just decide I'm going to start eating and tasting my food with my eyes. It's like people would say you shouldn't do, even an atheist would say you shouldn't do that. That's not good for you.
Right.
That's wrong. It's
Yeah.
wrong of you to do. And it's like
Yeah.
that's a natural law claim that because we know the end of our eyes is for seeing.
Right.
And this is something that's going to damage the end of that powers of vision, right?
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
right.
can you imagine eating chips and salsa with your eyes?
It would burn terribly.
You'd learn your lesson, pretty quickly.
Really quick.
So the same thing, we just use that same kind of analogy on speech.
Right.
Why is a lie bad? Well, because it actually thwarts our human flourishing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, but hold on. So let me push back just a little bit. Is it to reveal your thoughts or is it to reveal the truth?
Well, I would say reveal your mind, and your thoughts are part of your mind. But you could understand a thought to be a judgment, and so a judgment is going to be something that's truth apt. It's going to be
Or a
something
preference even.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could judge.
Like,
but
I like chocolate ice cream.
Yeah.
It's like.
But it represents yourself, and so so
I guess that is true still.
Yeah, exactly. So to use philosopher jargon, it's truth apt. It can be true. It can be false. But there's some things that are neither true nor false, like a question. And so if I express a question, I'm expressing my mind. I'm expressing my inquiry. Even when we already know the answer, sometimes we want what our inquiry is really about is hearing that person say what the answer is. And so, you might know that, your daughter ate the chocolate cake. At the same time, you want her to say that she ate the chocolate cake. And so I would say that a question, even when you know the answer to it, is still expressing your mind in this more general way. But whenever we judge something to be true or false, and we use that communicative power to assert our minds, the act of assertion is a sort of subcategory of communication. And so it's going to be the assertions that most people think of as our thoughts, or rather what thoughts are expressed And I think that's in ordinary conversation, it might constitute something like 75% of our communication is the assertions of our judgments and our thoughts. And so the conditions there is you always have to express in a way that's in keeping with your mind. Although, as we talked about yesterday and is relevant to your joke example, ambiguity is pervasive. So we're never going to be able to completely reveal our minds. We always have this element of saying something that could be open to multiple interpretations. Sometimes it's permissible to keep the ambiguity there, and sometimes we have a duty to speak up and clarify, what exactly it was we were saying.
So back to this story about Adam telling this joke. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought he was telling a real story. To me, it doesn't seem like a lie, because he didn't think that he was telling a true story.
Yeah.
And he didn't think that his hearers thought he was telling a true story. So
even though I intended on them to at least think that this was a true story at one point in time.
Yeah, in the moment.
Uh-huh.
But
that's why you give all these detailed examples and here you paint the picture.
It still doesn't strike me as a lie, because his mind had not been he hadn't finished expressing his mind on this point yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where Augustine and Aquinas follows him. Augustine defines lying as speaking falsely with the intention to deceive. And there you didn't have the intention to deceive, or did you?
Or did I?
Yeah.
Temporarily, kind of. But
yeah. So this is the so-called jocose lie, and I would think that there's some significant debate on what constitutes a jocose lie. So if you're saying something in a sort of a funny tone of voice, and it's very clear you're not saying something true, the funny tone of voice sort of takes away any assertive power that the words otherwise have. But this is more interesting, right? Because you're kind of doing everything that's conventionally part of an assertion, but there's a sort of there's an amount of time that you have to take it all away, to deliver that punchline.
I let too much time elapse there.
No, but that was just because
you didn't know.
It was just ineffective communication.
Yeah,
it just wasn't.
Being a communications director,
I should really think about that.
But we make mistakes.
Yeah. It's not that you didn't think that you'd clarified, it just didn't work.
Right.
Yeah. You thought the punchline was enough. The funny end was then people know, okay, well, of course that couldn't have been true, because it's it's too perfect.
Right.
And so much of this is going to be cultural. I mean, this happens a lot when you're talking to someone from another culture, who's maybe English is a second language or whatever, they don't get the context or the reference, or
what do you mean you could eat a horse?
Right, exactly. Like
that's weird.
You could not. You do not know horses.
What accent is this?
It's just foreign.
It's
just foreign.
Just a blanket.
But you
can
can see them I bet you $100 you cannot eat a horse. I will provide the horse. And they think you're lying. It's I'm not. No, you don't know what I'm saying.
Yes, right. Yeah, and so I think it's a really important matter for understanding what a lie is understanding how words are used, because it's not a private language. Words are used externally; they have a public meaning, and even the sort of not just individual words, but the whole phrases have public meaning. So, the phrase "I could eat a horse," people understand that in a different way than literally "I could eat a horse." And so, the phrase there "I could eat a horse" is just saying I'm really hungry, but people understand that. And so, I think that's a really now, I'm not sure if that helps or hurts you, because it seems like maybe what's going on, as you asserted, but with some ambiguity. And I guess the question would be, so in natural law, you can leave that ambiguity insofar as somebody doesn't have a right to know more information. So you could just leave it kind of ambiguous, and, supposing that they didn't...
Yeah, but that doesn't apply.
To me, it's no. I don't think it is. I think you can even say, this is a true story. And then when you hit the punchline, they know that's not a true story, because you're just not finished with giving all the context that gives, that says and fills in the meaning of all the words. To me, when you deliver the punchline right then, it's not like you let the person go, for weeks, thinking, which would be a funny joke too, you let somebody for days think there's something that's not true, it was reality, and then you break it on them later in front of a bunch of people. That would be hilarious. I'm sure you could come up with a really funny situation. But
I think you couldn't say. I don't think it would be permitted to say this is a totally true story unless you said it in kind of a funny way, like this is a totally true story. Please listen carefully. Something where it's too weird to ordinarily accompany a true story, because I think that if you say this is a true story, listen up. And the audience is now going to say, okay, well, as they listen, they're going to form judgments that this is all true as it goes. I think if you just started with a story like this in a state of ambiguity, you deliver the punchline. For me, I would probably add, all right, that didn't really happen, of course.
Yeah.
But that might be just being especially
thing to do.
Careful. As somebody who thinks about lying, I might be more careful than others. I don't know that it's morally necessary to add that last bit. Just given the context of the situation, most opening jokes with a punchline aren't true, and most people that are going to hear it.
So you think that if you say like, "Oh, this is a true story," and then you tell the joke and then deliver the punchline, and it's obvious, it's not a true story. Like that was a funny joke. You think you would count that as a lie?
I think that the adding this is a true story,
saying this is a true story,
unless the punchline is itself about the line this is a true story, I would think that a person's going to think, unless they know you.
Yeah.
Right. And in which case, if they know you and they know that most of your jokes start with this is a true story.
If you say this is a true story,
most
right?
of the
Yeah,
time
exactly.
before you deliver these whoppers.
Which I do.
True story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in that context, right, it's just like convention that they know, all right.
Okay.
David's spinning one.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So I think what the big crux of the matter, like the big issue that people have hang-ups with is the idea of deception.
Yeah.
And I think that I see that in myself. Growing up, I kind of had this thing, which we'll have to get to on the other side of the break, but that lying is wrong because it deceives. Right? And so it's hard to mentally to get past that notion. Because it's like, that's what I've thought my whole life, So when we get back on the other side of break, let's talk about deception.
Yeah. Sounds like you've been lied to.
I have been. And it hurts. We'll be right back.
What about social norms? So, how's your day? Oh, it's going great.
Yeah. I think that's just a convention. People know that's not what's really going on. Yeah. In Britain, it used to be common if somebody came to visit that the butler or housekeeper would say they're not at home, even though they're upstairs, brushing their hair or reading a book. And this was widely understood as not a lie, even though it's literally totally false. Because the idea is they've mentally reserved for politeness they're not at home for visitors. And so that additional bit of information, would make it true. But apparently in Britain, everyone understood what that meant. It meant they're not taking visitors. And
it's the same way with here. It's like, I'm not actually asking you how your day is. I'm just being polite and saying, like, recognizing you're here. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello,
good.
I see you.
Right.
Yes.
I see you too.
Yeah.
Although apparently this is, this varies from culture to culture. So if somebody were to ask how you're doing, I've been learning Russian recently, and
really,
yeah, it's a hard language. But so if you ask someone how they're doing, and you were to just say, fine, хорошо, it's actually kind of rude. You're supposed to get into it with them. You're supposed to tell them about, like the ingrown toenail.
Sit down, let's talk about it.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be annoying.
Yeah.
So you don't
I'm not asking anymore.
Right? Yeah, I know.
But so, okay, if you're supposed to be revealing your mind to the person.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're doing.
Well, what you're saying is something. I mean, you are communicating. You're saying, nothing is so bad that we need to talk about it right now, and I need help. It's things are fine. I think is what you're saying is things are not worth talking about with you. It's just a sort of deflective non-answer.
No, I think that's exactly right. That if walk by someone, hey, how you doing? Fine. And then if like the person that you said fine to, if you stop them and say like, do you really think that everything is just perfect with this other person? And be like, well, no, that's not what I think.
Yeah,
they might have problems, but
yeah, but they're not talking about them.
Right, exactly.
And that's fine.
I mean,
yeah,
it's like,
I didn't expect
nothing
it.
is debilitating.
Right,
I think we all understand, and that's the point, because the meaning of words is changes, and
Right.
you know, as long as that meaning is conveyed, that's what matters.
Yeah, and I think that's what's being asserted truthfully is, things are fine, not literally fine. And I think that, people who will attack the Thomist position, the classic natural law position, usually what they do is they try to pigeonhole it into these absurd, like failing to respect the conventions of language, of phrases, of culture. And so they want to, almost like a 6-day young Earth creationist about Genesis. It's like, no. If this is going to be true, the only way it's going to be true is if it's 100% literally true.
Yeah.
Every word means exactly what, a historical narrative would mean.
Which means God created the world. He wiped it out.
Yeah.
And then he created it again.
Right. There's two.
Do they think that? I mean, like...
Nah. No.
I wouldn't think so either.
Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah.
I mean, how do they not? Because in the second creation account, he creates man first and the animals afterwards. In the first one, he creates the animals first and then man is last.
Don't be so literal.
Sorry, yeah.
Come on.
if you're gonna be literal, you gotta hey, own it, man. God destroyed the first world. He made a second one. He made a practice world.
Ready?
Yeah. He made a practice world.
Here's to good friends.
That is the wrong thing.
Cheers.
Let's start over. It's a practice episode.
Yeah.
Sort of an oaky afterbirth.
Oh, changing. While you're changing the stereo there.
Yeah, now it's only on the right side. I don't know what you did, but you need to undo it.
I just muted it.
Yeah, but also it's
Hopefully
still
it's not-
only on the right side. See how you just got one of the bars?
Yeah.
I hope you know how to fix that.
Man, Juan's just a little rusty.
Yeah.
See.
It's going to be up above. It's in the collapsed one.
Here you go. Okay. Sorry about that.
It's no problem. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. We're going to Ireland. We're going to Ireland in September. We want you to come with us. Go to thecatholicmanshow.com.
I think we're about halfway full.
About halfway full right now.
Yeah.
So we'd love for you to come. Yeah.
So we've been really only promoting it for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
And
We're halfway
we're still
full.
months away, so I think that we'll probably fill up pretty soon.
We're in Ireland.
So we're starting in Dublin and then going west and then coming back around, coming
south,
back down through Cork, up, and back to Dublin.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so Father Sean Donovan will
awesome.
be with us. We're going to be able to say, have Mass on one of the rocks, the Irish rocks out there.
Wow.
And he's going to say Mass every day for us. We're going to go to Our Lady of Knock.
I think we're going to do the traditional liturgy on the rock, right?
Yep. Traditional Latin Mass there. And then we're going to go to like Dirty Nelly's and things like that, which is like a well-known pub that's like the Irish folk dance.
Nice.
It's going to be awesome. So
It
go to
is.
thecatholicmanshow.com. Join us in September to go to Ireland. So we're here with Dr. Brian Besong talking about lying. Before the break, Dave, you were...
I want to get into deception, and
Yeah.
I think we might even have to recover some of the stuff we talked on the
In
break.
between?
Yeah, because that was some... You guys, if you're just listening to the podcast, make sure to, or if you're listening to us on the radio, make sure to subscribe on the podcast.
Yeah.
So you can get all of the stuff.
Right.
Because sometimes the best stuff accidentally happens between, segments.
Oh, it's gold.
Yeah.
It's gold.
So, this idea of deception.
Yeah.
I had to, in my own mind, just say, all right, stop. Let's separate some things out here.
Yeah.
Deception, in many cases, is fine. In fact, might be the morally, you might even have like a moral duty to deceive in some cases.
Right.
Like war or...
Yeah, I mean,
spy?
there's just, you could think of, I think, many situations where someone asks you an inappropriate question.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't be appropriate to answer that question.
Yeah, sure. And it's also, it may be socially inappropriate to call them out for asking a terrible question.
Right.
And so you're stuck in the situation where you can either point out the terribleness of the question, nor answer it truthfully. Yeah. And so natural law, I think what we were talking about earlier about the pervasive ambiguity of language, it sees in the ambiguity of language something unavoidable, but also something that we can, leave in. So there's an idea that's often called mental reservation. And the idea is that it's permissible to reserve to our mind the complete expression of our thoughts. Now, although sometimes people who try to attack the natural law position attack this idea as just lying by another name, one should see this as like actually a pervasive feature of human existence and human communication. We never reveal our whole minds to another person.
Right.
I mean, they don't have the time. And
it's not possible.
It's not possible. Yeah. So, it's not lying by another name. It's just a pervasive feature of any truthful expression at all, because even the most truthful and precise communication is open to multiple interpretations. There's ambiguity there. And so, it's not as though natural law or any view is going to have to say, oh, you're going to have to sit them down for a good, 3 days to explain exactly what you mean by I'm fine today. And so, so the idea that ambiguity is always there, it's something that's pervasive and permissible. I think this is a starting point for understanding mental reservation, because some expressions are more ambiguous than others, but they can still have a natural, truthful understanding given the ordinary, conventions of language and the phrase's use. So, to use the example, and, we talked about this in the break, but when someone says, how are you doing today? And you say, I'm fine. In that tone of voice, maybe it doesn't sound so great.
I'm fine.
Fine. Just leave me alone.
Keep going. Yeah.
Hey, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, right. So are you really
I'll
fine?
pray for you.
Yeah.
Right. So, with a certain tone of voice, I'm fine sounds, no, you're not fine.
Right.
Yeah.
We need help.
Right. But so like the idea that we can express ourselves with some ambiguity, and that sometimes we know the other person has come to the wrong conclusion, and we can let it be. And that's the idea that mental reservation suggests, is that what we've done is allowed them to fall into an error. And is that morally permissible? And natural law says yes, insofar as the person who has been deceived has come to the wrong conclusion, is not someone who has a right to know otherwise. Now, there's a sort of a few elements here. The first is communication itself has to always be an accurate expression of your mind, but accuracy varies by degree, right? So there's more accurate, there's more precise, there's less accurate, less precise. But accuracy can still be present. So if I say I'm good, I really how are you? I'm good. I've expressed almost nothing. But I have expressed something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not dying of a bullet wound, right? Mm-hmm. There is some things that you can truthfully take from I'm good, and so insofar as those things you can take from I'm good are true or accurate representations of your mind, you have truthfully expressed your mind. Even if you are suffering from major depression, saying I'm good can still be truthful.
Even if you're actively dying, you could be like, I'm good, man.
Just leave me.
Yeah.
It's
I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it means almost anything.
Yeah, that's right. But I think if it was completely lacking any information from your mind, there could be something there that's dubious about it. But anyway, to get to deception, right? The idea that we can speak truthfully with some ambiguity, and we can let another person who has no right to know otherwise fall into a mistake. I think that's sometimes people get scandalized by that idea. We were talking about this yesterday. It's like sometimes people are totally willing to lie to the Nazi at the door. They think no problems. Yeah, just tell them there's no Jews in the attic, and they're off on their way. But to say something like, are you crazy? Why would I have Jews in my attic?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that seems like a crazy idea. You'd kill me. Well, you haven't said anything false there. It's a totally truthful evasion. But people can be sort of scandalized at the idea. People who would find lying totally plausible could find that idea dubious, like something morally funny, even though they're fine with lying.
Yeah, just the idea that you would use the truth to deceive.
Right.
I do think, people seem to be scandalized by that idea, and I can kind of sympathize with that a little bit, that it does seem strange.
You either straight up lie or you tell them the brutal honesty. Yeah.
Yeah, but after your talk yesterday, just talking to some other people, like there was a hang up about, you could just tell, like, it just didn't feel right to deceive with the truth.
Right.
But lying to them just straight to their face, like, no, that was totally fine. In fact, like, yes, what a hero, like for, saving the Jews.
Yeah, right.
But it's just funny.
And this has a long history, mental reservation. So, we'll use the example of Athanasius, who, was being hotly pursued by Roman officials, and they wanted to kill him or execute him, or at least exile him. And so they're in a boat, they're going down the river, and they sort of get out of view of the Roman officials. And Athanasius instructs his followers to turn the boat around and to sort of paddle slowly back. And so then the Roman officials stop them and they say, "Have you seen Athanasius?" And they said, "Yes, he's not far." And of course, the Roman officials take that as he's not far up the river and speed away. And of course, Athanasius is free for another day. And, you've got a deception by the truth. And it seems a studied deception, right? Saint Athanasius
is
seems
intentional.
It seems like, what other reason would they have to speak the truth in that way, except that the ambiguity of the expression is likely to lead them to error, and that's what they want. That's their end goal, and this is the means they're using to achieve that end goal. Now, in a natural law analysis, to analyze this idea of, well, there's something wrong with that, using the truth for not getting the other person to believe the truth. I mean, in natural law, what you're doing is you're trying to satisfy your human nature, and human nature is inclined naturally and unavoidably to speak our minds. And I think that lots of people, like, if you've ever had that experience where you've just been like burying something and burying it, and then you feel like you have to explode and say what you've been thinking, that idea that we need to reveal what's in our heads, that it's just a sort of basic need of ours, basic appetite of ours. I think that's very plausible. Lots of people have had that experience. So that's part of our human nature. It can't be thwarted. We should do it in all of our communications. We should be revealing our minds, even to the Nazis at the door. At the same time, there's also this social element that other people sometimes, given their own pursuit of happiness, need information from us in order to be successful in their pursuit of happiness. Now, the Nazi at the door has no right to know, because the information is not essential to his happiness. It doesn't help his happiness. In fact, that information frustrates his happiness. If he was ignorant on that point, he'd be better off, given his malicious will. So, the social element there is missing. This right to know is missing. And so, satisfying that craving, that inclination to use the power of communication towards its natural end, that's something we still have to do, even when the social element is missing. But since the social element is missing, we can be a little bit less frank or brutal or, just straightforward in our explanations, while still satisfying that part of our human nature.
Yeah, but do you think that's why people have an issue with this whole carte blanche, like lying, like this principle that you have, like, lying is not you personally.
Sure.
But lying is always inexcusable. You should never lie.
Yeah,
is that why they have this issue with laying this principle down always? Because this ambiguity of this broad mental reservation to the narrow, mental reservation. It's like, are you splitting hairs here? Like, I think that's why some people, it seems like, has an issue with applying this principle carte blanche.
Yeah, and okay, so at first glance, the view that lying is always wrong has an elegant simplicity. So in theoretical explanations, anytime you've got something that's very simple that can explain a lot, that's got something going for it. Its simplicity is a deciding factor. It's sort of people who might be familiar with Occam's razor. Yeah. Here's a good way to put the idea. Other things being equal, and that's not often true, but when other things are equal, simplicity is important, simplicity is decisive, and the simplest explanations are usually the best. lying is always wrong has a sort of simplicity here, but then you start introducing this idea of ambiguous, truthful expressions, and you get this distinction that some of your audience might be familiar with between broad mental reservation, which is the sort of mental reservation I've been defending, versus something called narrow mental reservation, which is like trying to give the words a different meaning than they actually have. So when you ask me a yes or no question, I'm going to say the answer is yes, but what I mean in my mind by the sound yes is the meaning no. And I've just made up a new word's meaning, and I've given you my new word yes, which is like yes star, which really means no. That's the reason why that's wrong is because words don't take their meaning from our minds, not exclusively. They have a public meaning, and the public meaning just absolutely doesn't correspond.
Right.
So anyway, back to the idea is like, well, this gets all kind of like muddy and complicated. Private languages versus public languages. Isn't that simplicity all sort of going out the window? Well, I mean, at first glance, you might think the answer is no, but then you have to look at the alternative views, right, where lying is permissible, win. And that's really where things get much, much muddier. And so I would say that the two most popular explanations of when lying is okay. One comes from the 16th, 17th century natural lawyer. He was not a Catholic, but a Protestant Calvinist, Hugo Grotius. So Grotius defends this view that you can lie whenever the other person does not have a right to know. Now, it's ordinarily presented in a very simplistic way, just like that, when they have a right to know. He has a sort of interesting theory about when other people have a right to know, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just keep it there. You can lie when the other person has no right to know. Take out the whole human nature element, and it's just the right stuff. This gets weird. According to his view, taking out the more interesting view on rights, I can just walk up to people in the grocery stores and tell them random things that are completely false. My uncle's Hugh Jackman. I can deadlift 800 pounds. These are things that I could walk up to anybody in the grocery store and tell them truthfully. I could even tell Juan this. I don't think he has a right to know.
Right.
Yeah.
I could deadlift 800 pounds on the moon.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's probably true. Right?
I have no idea.
Because I think that would be like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
I think that it's like one eighth the gravity.
Moon rocks.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm pretty sure I could.
Yeah.
In fact, I could. I know for a fact.
Definitively.
Yeah, I know for a fact. I've basically done it. But don't you think that like the hang up, because they have this, it's like you're just lying.
Yeah.
You're still lying.
Right.
But I think it becomes back to the fact that we still are crossing our wires, that it's the deception is the bad part.
Yeah, right.
And I think if we get it straight that lying is wrong because it is it's disordering a faculty of the human person.
Right. First and foremost.
That's why it's wrong. It's not. It has nothing to do with whether someone's deceived.
Well, I think it has a secondary element because, so I think first and foremost, lying is wrong because it disorders the human person. It takes human power and sends it in a different direction than human flourishing
It's
suggests.
just like putting chips and salsa in your eyes.
Yes, that's right. But then the secondary element is the social element because we see that other people need to know those things, and their satisfaction of happiness involves our saying what's true.
I agree.
And so, the first and foremost is the first part is never going to change. No lie, no matter the circumstances, a million lives are at stake. No lie changes the fact that I'm disordering my own human person.
Right. That it can't change your nature.
Yes, exactly. Right. And so that's where the fixity comes from, is the fixity of human nature. But then the circumstances do matter. So, if a police officer is questioning me about a violent crime that took place in my neighborhood and I'm the sole witness, and the person who... Whoa.
The intro music, the chorus didn't play.
Okay. That's no problem.
Let's stop. Let's pretend we stopped the segment.
Okay. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
I made a mistake. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Oh, did you forget to unmute it?
Well, that was only the intro, not the outro. Is the outro?
No, that's different.
Well, I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's all right. We're all right.
We just got there though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's plenty. I can easily fix that. Es no problema.
Okay. So let me make sure for this thing is gonna work.
Okay. Now where were we? So that way I don't. Where were we there?
Human nature can't change no matter the stakes.
Okay. Because you got to reset that one.
Okay, so I'm resetting this.
Mm-hmm.
And then why didn't it play in the end is what I'm trying to figure out.
Is it muted?
I muted Burning Daylight, not segment.
Well, unmute them all. What was that one you just clicked on?
Burning Daylight.
And actually, that's not what you did. That's not actually muting. That's whether or not it's being sent to the master audio. Okay. So it actually
is confusing because it has an M on it.
Right. But the speaker button, that's actually the mute. Yeah, that's mute.
Okay.
Well, if it happens again, just wave us down and we can end it. I mean, we'll be fine. We don't have to hear the outro music. Just let us know.
Okay. All right. Ready for segment 4? This is the last one.
Yeah, and then we'll keep going afterwards.
Good deal.
Because I also want to get into spies, and I want to get in also like non-verbal communication.
Yeah. I did find the place in the Summa that I was thinking about.
Really?
The conversation, yeah.
Okay.
It's on hypocrisy and dissimulation. So it's question 111 from the Secunda. I remember that now because I can't forget it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it over to Dr. Milosh. I think it means we're both right.
Oh, cool.
His view was it's verbal communication uniquely, and Aquinas just compares it to lying. He doesn't say it is a lie. But he says lies, like lying is repeatedly in the articles of that question, but it's not, he doesn't actually say it is a lie. He just says he sort of compares it like a close analog.
I like it when we can both be right.
Yeah. It's a compromise.
Yeah. Everybody wins. Yeah.
It's like socialism at the very beginning.
Yeah. It's great. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan and Dr. Brian Besong. We're talking about lying, which is a difficult thing to talk about.
Been lying a lot lately.
Really great. Been a lot of fun. So we were just talking about lying is wrong. Firstly, because it goes against the nature, our human nature,
right?
Which cannot change, no matter how heavy the stakes, no matter how important or crazy the situation.
Right.
You're human. You'll still be human. Your nature will be unchanged, and therefore, it is wrong to abuse the faculties of our human nature.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
And then beyond that, there's this social construct.
Yeah.
So it just seems to me like when you get that and you get that straight and don't let these wires cross in your mind,
right,
that then it doesn't actually matter the whole deception. Well, that's just like a lie. It's like, no, it isn't, because a lie is a falsehood. And
right.
a more mental reservation is not a falsehood. It might be ambiguous.
Right.
I think it's sort of like comparing using NFP to birth control.
Yeah.
And you kind of have mentioned that. I've heard you use that analogy, but I think it's very fitting because people will also say NFP is just Catholic birth control.
Yes, that's right.
We're getting to the same end.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and the means matter, and that's the difference. Is the means matter. So in the means of contraception, right, you're intentionally frustrating the way the power works. And with natural family planning, you're just abstaining when, it would be very successful.
Right. I'm just refraining from giving all the truth.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good analogy. And so, I think maybe one of the things that people get caught up with is the knowing that the other person's going to come to the mistake. So I don't think many people have a problem with Grandpa telling the fishing story where the fish just got a little bit bigger, but not so much as to be straightforwardly false.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's going to think, that liar, Grandpa is such a liar.
Yeah.
Assuming that, we're not talking about like a minnow just became, a barracuda.
Right.
If it just got slightly larger, people are going to think, well, it's still sort of within the realm of possibility, within the realm of truth, because there's ambiguity and memory and what these words mean. Are your grandkids really going to take that as a literal measurement when it's just your hands? And so anyway, the idea that I think most people are totally fine with that sort of ambiguity, that sort of like kind of false but kind of true. No one's going to point that out as lying.
Right.
But then when you do it knowingly, and that's where people are a little bit funny, is like that end of deception, to know that the other person's going to come to a mistake. That seems to be the funny business. Now, the funny thing is, for most of those people, they're also the sort of people who think you can lie. And so the other person's coming to a mistake doesn't seem to be an intrinsic problem. After all, they're intentionally lying to them, right? Or they defend intentional lying. And so I guess for those people for whom, that intentional deception is a problem, I guess the question is why? What, if you defend lying in those cases, why is their being deceived something fundamentally important?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for it. I just think this is the question I have to answer.
It's like it's okay to deceive people sometimes.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this question. Like the stereotypical Nazis at the door.
Yeah.
You have Jews in your attic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because let's say someone who's let's say is very stupid. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be very good at doing this whole mental reservation thing.
Yeah. No Jews. No.
Right.
Just go
right.
away.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's say you are someone who has practiced the art of mental reservation.
Yeah.
And the Nazi comes to your door. You know for a fact I can deceive him truthfully.
Yeah.
And he'll think I'm telling him I don't have any Jews here in my house.
Yeah.
And he'll be satisfied and leave.
Yeah.
Obviously, telling the truth, there's no moral problem.
Right.
Certainly not if it's a dichotomy of tell the truth or lie.
Yeah.
If you have certainty of this other power to deceive, do you have a moral obligation to deceive him with the truth as opposed to simply revealing the truth to him? If in that situation, is it morally wrong to say, yes, I have Jews in my attic?
That's a question I don't have an answer for. I'm inclined to say no, but I don't have a reason why. It's just my gut instinct is to say I can't think it's a moral obligation to deceive someone. I think permissible. My gut tells me permissible only, but I don't have an argument.
It feels to me, and that's bad. It's a bad indicator. Yeah. This is not how we do morality based on feelings. But it seems like it just seems like if you have this ability, and you don't use it, it seems to violate, I don't know, the virtue of decorum or something.
Yeah.
Similar to like, hey, let me tell you all the details about my wife and I's love life.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
You should not. There are some things that are wrong. It's wrong to reveal.
Yeah. Right.
And so in this situation, it just seems like because I know I have this ability to deceive, to be more prudent with the truth, we'll say.
Right.
To reveal too much is an excess, it seems, and could be even sinful.
Yeah, I could see the argument there, and my question isn't, is it the right thing to do to just tell him what's going on, but rather just remaining silent. And I don't know that we would be obligated to, kick in our deceptive powers over silence. I guess I could see it either way.
Yeah, the question is not whether you remain silent, but would it be wrong to just come out and say, yeah, I have Jews in my attic?
Oh, of course, that's wrong. Yeah. That's,
if I could simply...
And that's just going to kill them. And
exactly.
Yeah, that's bad. Yeah. That would be a bad thing to do.
Okay. Yes, that's what I think too.
Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward.
Thanks, dude, for,
We went over this.
Right.
There was 3 other addicts on this street.
I could have just kept going,
Yeah. No, that at least remain silent.
Yeah.
But certainly don't just.
I mean, if you're someone who's practiced, I know I have the ability to deceive.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not the only case where not spilling the beans is a moral duty. So people who are in the intelligence services, you have access to information that's unique, extremely sensitive,
or the sacrament of confession.
Exactly.
The
right.
seal.
Right. So you can't spill the beans there. Although that is a matter of canon law rather than. I don't think that the sacramental theology requires silence, but as a matter of canon law, we enforce it.
Right, but it would be immoral to violate canon law.
Yes, that's right. That's right, because of the authority of the church.
Right.
So, but yeah, all of these cases involve a duty to at least remain silent, although sometimes silence is itself an answer. And
Exactly.
So that's the tricky part.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see people being like,
if the guy says, "You have any Jews in your house?" you just sit there and stare at him. Like, okay, guys, come on in.
Yeah. And then, like, sometimes when people get nervous, obviously, by remaining silent, they maybe, like, nonverbal, like, maybe they turn red or they start sweating or, like, their eyes get big, or, which is an answer.
Right, that's right. Although I should also add that people are terrible liars in general, except people who maybe are on the spectrum of sociopathy. And so, sociopaths, psychopaths are really good at lying. But most people are not really good at lying, and they will, they will do little things that people who are, experienced investigators, experienced interrogators will pick up on. Mm-hmm. And so the best bet for subterfuge is not to lie. And I think this is something that most people who are advocates of lying don't realize, is that lying may actually be a less practical solution because people are not good liars, because it's going against human nature. And so it may be better to have a studied evasive response that you've sort of prepared ahead of time, because the studied evasive response is true, and you can say it, with your eyes wide open and, with a sort of honesty of conscience. And that's not going to feel like a lie, even to an experienced interrogator, because you're saying what's true. Now, you might be nervous, but an experienced interrogator would know, I'm an experienced interrogator. Mm-hmm. Everyone's nervous when I start asking them questions.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
So, like, with my children, whenever I handle questions about, like, a certain dude who comes in, like, in December, what I'll tell people when they ask me questions, I'll say, well, people say that this about him. Mm-hmm. And people do say those things, and
now, like, I think this is a mental reservation that's not defensible. I think they have a duty to know.
You might be right, because, like, it all comes back to the fact that I did lie about it at some point. I mean, like,
right, just sort of kicking the can there.
Right.
Yeah. So I think you can kick the can insofar as the person hasn't made a judgment yet, like the joke example before. Like, I think people are sort of, like, waiting. If you leave them in the, you leave them completely in the view that this is true, well, that's enough time for them to form a judgment. And that's really, I think, the thing that's most important to assertion. Like, we know that there's this, like, window of opportunity to clarify what assertion is. Mm-hmm. But I also think we owe it to some people to clarify. And so remaining silent in those cases, mental reservation is not justified when they have a right to know. And I think our kids have a right to know that he doesn't see us when we're sleeping. He doesn't know when we're awake. Mm-hmm. And it's only God that knows when we've been bad or good. So parents could drop this.
St. Nicholas does know those things.
He could through the beatific vision.
Yeah, he could.
But not all the information about the earth is revealed on the beatific vision. Only what's relevant to the saints.
Yeah. But he could know those things.
He could. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's not the point of that's not the deceptive part, or the lie.
Right. Yeah. But I think children have a right to know where their gifts are coming from. They have a right to know, like, how the world works, that they're not magical beings that, ordinarily on a routine basis deliver gifts. And I think most parents realize there's a sort of danger in Santa Claus insofar as, like, why can't he bring me 2 horses or 2 ponies? Like,
right. Why is there limitations here?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
If he's going to everywhere in the world in one night, why is there limitations?
I'll tell you why.
Gifts?
I'll tell you why. You weren't good enough.
So if you're listening to this on the radio, go check out our podcast, thecatholicmanshow.com. We're going to continue this conversation with Dr. Brian Besong. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus. Okay, so I want to, like, throw out a parental disclaimer. I want to keep talking about this for just a minute.
Okay.
So, like, parental disclaimer.
If you're in the car.
We're no longer going to veil our language.
Right.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, because you have kids.
Mm-hmm. I just told them people say there's Santa Claus and there isn't. Yeah.
So will they, like, not ruin it for their friends, like,
because and then you get people who are really mad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've told my daughter, who's older, by the way, my daughter is the most enthusiastic anti-Santa Claus person that I've ever met. She wants to record a video of her on YouTube for me to share with my students who get mad at me about telling my daughter that there's no Santa Claus. She wants to record this so that I can send it to my students, telling them that they should never do this. It's a terrible idea to lie to your kids, and that the world is not a better place with Santa Claus around. She's like at dinner time randomly, she'll say, "Daddy, did you tell them that they should never lie to their kids about Santa Claus?" I'm like, I'll get to it. Like that wasn't today's lesson.
This is something I like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Some people have a bad experience, like when they learn that about Santa, that there's no Santa Claus.
I was one of those kids. Maybe this has pushed me to natural law. I was one of those kids who like found out late, and I think it is important when
they find out,
right? Because I don't know. I just love it adds so much mystery. It literally is like adding magic, which I think like this sort of wonder and creative like thinking and like is so great for little kids.
This explains a lot about you.
Yeah.
I like it real. Straight real.
Well, the thing is, like, it is real. Not that it's not a lie.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. But did Saint George really fight a dragon?
Yeah, right.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that the story is not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True in a different sense.
Exactly. You don't have to tell children that dragons exist. They know that dragons exist.
Yeah.
The point is that they need to know that they exist in order to be vanquished, right? Mm-hmm. That there are these mythical, like, those realities aren't actual.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean they're not real. And so how do you express these things to children? I think Santa Claus is like a really good way of
and children are drawn to that.
A certain thing.
Yeah.
I do acknowledge that it is objectively lying.
You're asserting.
Okay.
The words mean something.
Right, exactly. I do see that. And I understand that these things do not go together, right? But I think this is like one of the problems. I'm guessing I'm not alone.
Yeah.
In that people might push back on the whole thing about lying. Could like Santa Claus alone.
It's not the Jews in the attic.
No,
it's Santa Claus.
Like, I get it.
Santa.
Actually, like, yeah, I understand. The whole Jew thing, not a problem. Gotcha. When that happens to me, I'll know how to do it.
I'll be Mr. Evasive.
But like, if you tell me that I have to ruin Santa Claus for my kids, I will fight you, sir. Like,
right? Yeah. I've never had that inclination because I was one of the people who got burned from that. Like I would debate people like, no, my parents would never lie to me. What? Of course he exists. And then finally they got around to telling me. Months later, I still remember it in 5th grade because I had a debate, months previous with some kid. Of course he exists.
Mm-hmm. I also think that if you separate the religious aspect from Santa Claus and the whole Christmas like moment, then it becomes a much more malicious. The lie is it's more pernicious and like it affects you more deeply.
Yeah.
Because when you when Santa Claus is enrobed in religious symbolism and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
When kids find out he's not real, they don't feel lied to. I think
because
more
there
likely
is a truth in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is what Santa Claus teaches us. You know, it's like, oh, okay, I see. Like,
although, I would say that of all the
once again, it's still objectively lying. I do get that.
I would say that of all the analogs that the angry atheist crowd will point to when they talk about belief in God, the number one is Santa Claus. And so, what they'll say is, this is a sort of noble lie from authorities. And so the closer it gets to, so Plato had this idea that the authorities could lie to us for noble reasons in order to get us to do things the right way. He expresses this in the Republic.
Yeah.
And that idea of the noble lie has never gone away. So, the idea that parents could also do these sorts of noble lies, or church figures could have noble lies, like, maybe the existence of hell is a noble lie to get us to do the right thing. And, God would never really send us to hell forever. That idea, if you begin to see the permissiveness of noble lies that have good benefits, it's a door that opens to much, much more. And this is like the other theory. So it was Grotius and then consequentialism. And this is the consequentialist idea, right? The idea that lying has these good benefits. But once people realize that they've been lied to for some benefit, trust goes down substantially, I think. And so then they think, okay, so here's a truth that has benefits. That must mean it's not really true, right? Here's a claim that, benefits these people. Well, and I think this is kind of at the core of a lot of our so-called post-truth society, or sort of, what do they call this? Deconstruction is who gets benefited? Like, where's the money, so to speak? And their claims can't be true or false. Those claims are not even worth evaluating. It's just who benefits, and it must be that, that's the source of the lie. So I think we should be really careful to always speak the truth, even when it's got bad consequences, or not lie even when it has good consequences, magical consequences, because I think it begins to erode trust that people have in things that they really should trust, like the existence of God.
So what about nonverbal?
Yeah.
Okay, so like Nazis come to the door, do you have Jews in your basement, and you just shake your head like, and almost discuss. Is that a lie?
I think that's a lie. Yeah.
You think it is a lie?
Yeah, because I think shaking your head no.
I think it's communication.
Yeah, it's communication. Yeah, it's. I think that's no different than the sounds coming out of your. Like there's nothing special about the mouth and the tongue that allows its communication to be sort of preferred. It's just that's the chosen medium. It's easy to do that. It's easier to do that than to sign with our hands. So that's just the mode we've chosen.
When you see a dog shaking its head, no one thinks that it's communicating something.
Right.
But when a person does it, because of our communicative faculty,
yeah,
people know I'm conveying the meaning, which is the word no.
Right. That's right. And of course, it's a convention. We could have chosen the opposite, shaking your head up and down.
There are cultures that do no.
Bulgaria.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, there's other gestures, thumbs up,
Yeah, the peace sign means something totally different in other places.
Yeah. What does it mean?
It means bad. It's bad.
Really?
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Like the backwards peace sign, like in different cultures historically, has been more of like the middle finger.
Wow. The backwards peace sign. What's
it
that?
had something to do with I don't know. I was about to tell a story that it's like I have no idea if that's actually like, but that's what I've heard.
You're gonna lie on this show.
Well, not on. No, it wasn't gonna be a lie because I believe that it is actually a real thing, but. It could be wrong.
Do you know Saint Teresa was instructed by her confessor to essentially give Jesus the middle finger?
No.
Yeah. She was instructed
What?
to. Yeah. One of her, later confessors.
Not have told her to do that.
Yeah.
Personally.
It was. There's a gesture called giving the fig, which was in Spanish culture. You
make it like the sign of a fig. Yeah, the fig.
Yeah. And. This is functionally the same as the middle finger in today's American society, and so the confessor commanded her under obedience to give Jesus the fig every time he appeared to her, and she did. And Jesus, in fact, told her that she was doing the right thing.
Because obedience.
Yeah, obedience.
Right.
Why would he tell her to do that?
Because he thought they were satanic in origin, and so that was something that Saint Teresa wrestled with her confessors often, because everything in her experience indicated that they were authentic, visions, but her confessor didn't believe her. So
seems like there would be better ways
to come to that conclusion.
Yeah. Well, it could also test her, right? Because if she's manic, or if there's something about her that's off, mental illness, her absolute insistence on obedience would be a great way to show. This is sanctity, not,
seems
mania.
Like it seems like you shouldn't do that. Though.
Yeah,
like,
right. I'm not defending it, but I can see
like,
psychologically
there are
why
certain
maybe.
things. It doesn't matter what your confessor commands you to do. Like, no, I'm not going to kill my mom.
Right.
I'm not going to give Jesus the finger.
Okay, so
tell me to do something else.
There's one more thing that I'd like to talk about.
Yeah,
and that's there are some professions that require us to deceive, not only deceive, but like to actually lie.
Hot dog salesman.
Yeah.
All beef, 100% beef. Hot dog salesman.
It was near a cow at one point.
Yeah. There are Secret Service. There's people
undercover policemen,
who are not necessarily deceiving.
Yeah.
Okay, so deceiving is probably.
They are deceiving, but they're outright lying.
But they're outright lying.
Right,
so they're taking it one step further and saying, that no, I am X. I'm. He's not saying I'm not something, but he's saying I am something else.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
To deceive.
Yeah. So I think that they shouldn't do these things. Now, one of the things that's really worth talking about is how culpability comes into play in this conversation. So, one of the parts of my talk that I did yesterday was about how some of the patristic fathers have said lying in these circumstances is not just permissible, it's a duty. And there's a handful of church fathers in the early period that defend lying. And so and people know this, and people also have their intuitions about, lying. And so, if you're an informed Catholic and you realize, like St. John Chrysostom defended lying, St. Ambrose defended lying, and St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas didn't, and that became the consensus view. But come on, St. Augustine and St. Ambrose, these are, two great saints.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, exactly. And so I could see somebody saying, okay, well, intellectually, I see the arguments against lying. I see how defenses of lying fall apart. At the same time, maybe some other theories out there, and the Nazis are walking up the step right now. And so I could see a person in that situation having it as a legitimate moral option in their psychology to lie because they're in a state of innocent ignorance about the permissibility of lying. True, they don't see a great argument for it, but they do see, very holy people that are, sort of externally reliable. You can generally trust what they say, and they say this. And so I would think that if you're an informed person, you've sort of realized that there's some debate about this, even if it's a consensus view against the lie, I could see you in that state, given the sort of lack of freedom, lying without a sin. That said, a lot has to do with the situation, right? The guns to your head, or the Nazis are literally, the door has opened. We should never put ourselves in circumstances that are sources of temptation, near occasions of sin. And so what I would think is that a person who is, let's say, a good Catholic police officer who's been asked to do an undercover investigation into a violent gang that lives nearby, the person sort of fits the bill on who would get into this gang. And so they've been asked to do so, and they could see great benefit because their local area has just been really harmed by this gang. So they really want to do it. At the same time, they think to themselves, the chances that I'm going to have to lie through my teeth all the time are super high. They should say, I'm sorry, I've got to decline this. Mm-hmm. Because there's no other affecting circumstances that would diminish culpability. They've got total freedom in the sort of cold circumstances of their office setting when they've been proposed for this new opportunity. They've got total freedom. They intentionally are putting themselves in circumstances where they know the only way I'm going to survive is by lying, right? And so there's full intentionality there, and there's also what I would hope for knowledge that this is in fact wrong. Why is there knowledge that this is in fact wrong? Well, externally, the church has had large consensus on this view. In fact, if you look at moral manuals from the early 20th century, the possible permissibility of lying in rare circumstances is not even discussed as an opportunity or possibility. So the church really codified this, at least informally, through the ethicists that are working within the magisterium. There's never been a sort of doctrinal claim, an encyclical that has said this definitively. And people who are defenders of lies will point out that at one edition of the Catechism did briefly endorse Grotius's theory of the right to know. It was retracted very, very quickly, and the Catechism on lying is, very strong against lying.
Mm-hmm. So is it just be?
Okay, I mean, I think there's also more serious problems with being an undercover, or agent of something. I mean, like the chances that you're likely be required to do drugs, or at least be an accomplice to other crimes. I mean, like
that's right.
The fact that you have to lie is actually
towards
the bottom of
the
yeah, exactly. Like so bigger problems.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right.
So
yeah, and maybe spies would not be as it's less likely that they'll say, do this line of cocaine to prove that you're not a police officer. But a spy,
even as a spy, the chances of someone coming up to you and saying, "Are you a spy for the U.S. government?"
Yeah, that's right.
It's pretty low.
Right, that's right.
If they're asking you, they already know.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, they're giving you an opportunity to fess.
And that's when you just be quiet and yep, you're gonna arrest me, even if I say, no, gosh, I don't. Where would you get that idea? It's crazy.
Let me just grab that thumb drive.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so spying could be okay.
Yeah, I think so.
In this aspect.
Yeah.
Undercover is going to be an issue.
That's going to be more problematic,
right.
I think.
And in war settings,
right.
I think if you're going to just straight up lie to an enemy, that deception in war is quite common and can be justified, but straight up lying is not going to be justified. And similarly, we think about war settings, but in business settings, sometimes negotiators will feel like they're compelled to lie in order to get an advantage. So, in one negotiation setting, let's say you've got a job offer from one, company. Well, you might be able to bump that up by $5,000 a year by saying, look, I've got this second one. It's for the same amount of money, but it's in a location that I really, really prefer. Do you think you can do anything to sweeten the deal? Chances that they'll lift it by a few K is pretty high, even if there's no second job offer. Because you could always still say, you know what, at the end of the day, I like this company more. So they would never call you out on it. And most of the time they don't require you to sort of send the letter of offer, sort of formal offer over to them to prove it. Mm-hmm. So there could be lots of advantages in lying in business settings and in business negotiations, maybe even more than spying.
Yeah.
But that would be wrong.
If you were going to argue for the other side, if you're going to steel man,
I gotta go. You keep going.
Oh, this is the last question.
Okay.
If you're going to steel man the other side, what position would you take?
Yeah, I think I would probably, it's really hard because natural law is so sort of built into the basics of natural law that you can't lie, because it's just sort of one of the first applications of it, that I think if I were going to defend lying, I would probably have to drop an ordinary natural law analysis. I would probably go the Grotius's route, but then it just leads me to this really muddy water moral theory. And so, I would rather have a bright line on lying, which truthfully doesn't violate my intuitions about morality, than to suddenly get this sort of, terribly Byzantine moral theory that tries to get it to work, but does so with all sorts of problems. It's got leaks all over the place. And, trying to satisfy this makes it not work in so many other ways that but I think probably Grotius is the most promising route for a halfway plausible defense of lying.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
man, it's been a blast to talk to you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on. How can they find out more about you?
Okay, so you can go to my website, which is I didn't register a cool website. It's bbsong.weebly.com, or I've got an academic website. So if you just Google search me. Yeah.
Awesome. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.